Answer for this one should be 5. What can you take out of both of those terms? 4. Anything else besides a 4? Well, you can't take a 4 and a 2 out. You can only take one constant term out. If I take a 4 out, what am I left with from 12x? 3x minus 5, yes. Homework check. We have 4 out of 8 for 50% for the homework. Homework lottery, the 3 of you that had credit for homework, you can pick a number from 1 to 20, and I'll pick 5. Could get 20 points. All right, so we have 3, 7, 9, 12, and 19. Before we do the homework answers, here's a fast multiple choice. Factor and bring me the block letter only. On this one, you can take out a 4 and an x from both of those. That eliminates this and this as possible choices. And then, of course, you would have to have an x minus 2y squared to get back to the original. So that would be choice C. Here are the homework answers. Here's 1 through 5, and I'll leave those up and give you a chance to look at them. Here's 6 through 10. Here's a quick review. When I simplify this, what am I left with? Just 2. What about this one? Yes, 1 over 2x to the third. What about this one?
1 over 3 and x.
Yes, 1 over 3x. There's a 4 over 3 in it.
X to the third on top.
X to the third on top.
1 over 2 y on the bottom.
1 over 2y is right.
1 over 2x squared.
1 over 2x squared.
2x squared y squared. Y squared.
Y squared on the bottom, right.
X on the bottom and z on the bottom. What's on the bottom?
Yeah, z over x.
X to the third y over.
Is the y on top?
Y.
Bottom. And that's it.
1 over 2 x on top. Y on bottom. Z on bottom.
X over 2yz. Here's the lottery for everybody. The winning number is 2. A and A plus tests. All right, for the A and A plus papers, second period, Rayburn had the high score, perfect paper, 1100. Jones 1008 and Applegate M 1020. Also in second period was Davis and Applegate B, a 1028 and 988. And third period, McAllister had a 941, high score for the class. Well, my key vanished in digital universe land, so since Rayburn had a perfect paper, I'll put this up here for you to look at. If I can just get rid of that yellow mark, which is not leaving, so we'll just leave it. Here's the key if you want to look over your paper real quick. Well, here's the objective. Construct a rough graph of a function. Here's example 1. Here's your function. And when you see this function, you have to make a choice. choice number one is, can I factor this out? Is there something that I can take out of x squared, x, and minus 6 all at the same time?
No.
No, there is not. So your next option is, can I factor this into two quantities in which I must first find two numbers that multiply to get negative 6 and that add to get a positive 1 for this middle term? Are there two numbers that multiply to get a negative 6 and add to get a 1? What two numbers could I multiply together to get a negative 6?
Negative 6 and 1.
Okay, if I add negative 6 and 1, that gives me a 5? What if I reverse the signs?
Negative 5 and 1.
Negative 6 and 1 would give me a negative 5. What other two numbers could I multiply to get a negative 6? No, we've already been through 1 and 6.
Negative 1 and
Negative 3 and 2. Negative 3 and 2 would give me a negative 6 for multiplication, but when I added it would give me a negative 1.
negative 7 and 1.
No, it can't. It's got to be multiplying to get 6, the negative 6, and then adding to get the positive 1. Negative 2 and 3 would multiply to give you negative 6, and it would add to give you a positive 1. So he's right. So we factored this out to x plus 3 and x minus 2. We found two numbers that multiply to get a negative 6 and add to get a positive 1. Now, if you couldn't come up with any of that, even if there is a way to factor it and you can't find it, your third option is to use the quadratic formula, and then it would give you the solutions for it. But if you can factor it, that's the easy way. And when I factor it, I have to find the zeros. The zeros of a function are essentially the solutions, and that's where the graph will cross the x-axis. So to find those, you do x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 2 equals 0. So you have a negative 3 and a positive 2. Or you can just reverse these and get the solutions. But in either way, you have these two. And those are the zeros. Zeros of the function. Is there an extra E in zeros?
No.
Good. I teach math, not English, so I'm not ashamed to ask. Zeros. All right, that's where it's going to cross the y-axis. Or not the y-axis, but the x-axis. I always say y. It's where they cross the x-axis. So hold these. And now what you have to find for your graph is the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry will be half of the vertex. In other words, half of the point. And we'll have to solve for y afterwards. But for right now, x equals negative b over 2a. That'll give us the axis of symmetry. AOS. So go back and find your A term, your B term, and your C term. What is B? No, not X, the number beside X.
Oh, 1.
1, right. So that goes on top. And your A term is what? 1. It comes from beside the x squared and the b, or the x. Now just simplify that fraction and come up with a negative half. That is your axis of symmetry. So we have the zeros and the axis of symmetry. Now what we need is the actual vertex. And the vertex is a point, an xy point, and we've just found the x value. It's a negative half. We have to find the y value. And in order to do that, we have to refer back to our equation. X squared plus x minus 6. You're going to plug in that negative half for x. in that function and evaluate for an answer for y. So we'll plug that in and come up with the quantity squared of a negative half plus a negative half and then minus 6. Now you can do that on a calculator and get the answer really quick. In my case, I'm just going to convert this into a fraction and then go through and show my work for it. I need a common denominator of 4 all the way through, and then perform, that's not a 6, that's a 4, there we go. And then negative 1, or 1 minus 2 is a negative 1, negative 1 minus 24 is negative 25. That's over 4, but make it a mixed number. And that will be the y value for your vertex. So your vertex is negative half and negative 6 1/4. So we'll go back up here to the top and review real quick. We'll have this function given to us. You have to solve it. Try number 1 would be to see if you can factor something out of 3 terms there. You cannot. Now factor out into 2 quantities by first finding 2 numbers that multiply to give you this and add to give you this 1. We found 3 and negative 2. And when you solve this, you essentially need the opposite of what you've put in. Those are your zeros of the function, and that's where they're going to cross the x-axis. Once you find those, you're going to find the axis of symmetry. And the formula is negative b over 2a. You get your a and b from your equation up here, from this spot and this spot. Plug it into the formula, and then simplify. Leave it as a fraction. Negative 1/2. That's the axis of symmetry. That's the line that divides the graph into 2 equal parts. Now, you have this axis of symmetry. It's also the x value of your vertex. Plug that into your original function. Evaluate for negative 6 1/4. And you're going to put that into a point. Negative half, negative 6 1/4. With those items, you can go to your graph and you can plot those points and draw the axis of symmetry, and you can even find more points to make your graph more precise. So we have the zeros plotted here, and I've just drawn a line that we absolutely don't need. There we go. We've plotted the zeros here and here, and we have the vertex, which in second period I put on the y-axis mistakenly, but here is where it's supposed to be. Now we need the axis of symmetry, which is a negative 1/2. Here is a negative 1/2, so I need a vertical line straight up and down through that. Here it is, and it should run through your vertex as well. So you may have to redraw your vertex, make it a little bigger there. Things to remember about these quadratic graphs are the following. Can you see this yellow?
Yeah.
If it's a positive x squared term, it'll be a U-shaped item like that. If it's a negative x squared term, it's going to be an umbrella shape like that. So clearly we're going to have a bowl shape, a U-shaped item here. But as with any graph you draw, the more points you have to sketch from, the more accurate your graph is. So notice that we already have this point and this point, those zeros. What if we move out one spot from each of these? What if we move out from this one over one spot? What spot is that on the y-axis? 3. And what spot is this one? Negative 4. How about we do this? On another page, which is out of order on the video, we have solved for, or evaluated for 3. So we found 3 here. We plugged it into the function, and we came back with 6. So we're going to plot 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we put in -4 and also found a 6. So now we have 5 dots, which are going to make us have a more accurate graph. When you go to graph this, make sure you have curves, not straight lines. We're not drawing a spike or anything like that, or a rocket. So you want to make it go like this. Whoops, that's awful. My hand slipped, and I would like to fix that. Okay. But in the process, I've knocked out my 6. There's 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And right here. So they're back. I'm going to try again. Oh, I did it again. But we'll have to do. There is the graph of the function y squared equal, y squared. Y equals x squared plus x minus 6. Here's our original function, y equals x squared plus x minus 6. And how about we plug in 3 and 4? Let's start with 3. And just evaluate it. It's like an extra credit problem on the test. That's not 9 plus 12, that's 9 plus 3. That's embarrassing. So 12 minus 6 is 6. We plugged in a 3 and came back with a 6. So there's another point for you to use. How about we try the -4? So that would be a 16 minus 4 minus 6. 12 minus 6 is 6. So we have a -4, 6. We can plug in those 2 points and put them on there before we draw our graph.